It's always sort of nostalgic to come back to Berserk and talk about some of the new stuff that actually is going on with Berserk. While we're still waiting for some of the manga chapters to come out, I was able to find something not too long ago, and I think you guys will actually enjoy this. So as you know, I love Berserk and I love a lot of the figures. I didn't think I'd actually come across this, but to be honest, I came across this really nice Art of War Berserk Guts figure. It's an interesting figure. It's kind of archaic in what it actually brings to the table, but in terms of sculpt and design, this thing is fucking amazing. Look how big that sword is. Holy shit. But as you can see, this thing is a behemoth and it's beautiful. Its detail is great. I'm gonna go into it. From what I think, this is actually a limited edition of the PS2 game that actually came out in Japan, so that was actually rather surprising to find. But I'm going to keep you guys updated, let you know what the Art of War Guts Berserk figure is for this one, and we'll see how this goes. So a figure that I actually never expected to get in my collection, this is the Berserk Art of War Guts figure, which I assume is going to come with the limited edition of the PS2 version as a Japan import. Now this is pretty much packaged as a limited edition. It comes in a really nice box. I'll put a photo right there so you could see a little bit of a comparison. But usually something like this would come in a comparison. I'm going to assume that it came with this. However, I'm not entirely sure. This is actually a Guts limited edition one. This is actually a pretty interesting and nice figure. He stands at 8 inches tall in this pretty much blister cardboard packaging. I'm not too big of a fan when it comes to this kind of cardboarding, just because you can only take it out and pretty much the package is ruined. I actually prefer like Figma boxes and everything that comes else with that. So from the look of it, we can already tell this is actually Conviction Art Guts. This isn't Lost Children Guts. This is pretty much when he gets most of the armor in the Conviction art and when he starts to level up and starts to upgrade and all that kind of jazz. So right here, he doesn't really come with too many accessories, but he is rather hefty. He comes with 4 knives. Now these are actually rather interesting that you see them on the top. I'll get into these a little bit. On the right side, you actually see the huge Dragon Slayer. You can see pretty much at scale how big this guy is. It is pretty much from head to toe a little bit bigger than he is, from the tip of the Dragon Slayer to the hilt on the top. When you look at the packaging, you see the word Berserk on top. You see a little behemoth on the right. This package pretty much is damaged. This is actually how I got it. Person who had it actually stapled it together so it actually looks nice, but it works. On the back, we have little product shots of Guts, so we have him pretty much with and without the cape. He can actually hold the sword with both of his hands, but I don't really like this too much. He doesn't have much maneuverability. I'll talk about that in a little bit later. You can also holster his Dragon Slayer, although it was a little bit difficult for me to get into. But let's get into the actual figure, and let's get into actual Guts himself. As you would expect, this figure actually stands at 7.5 inches tall. He is rather difficult to stand, so the thing is, he does come with the stand. It comes in one of those stands where you actually have to take off the back part of the blister pack, although I don't like doing that, so I kept it on. But besides that, he is a little bit difficult to hold. He doesn't come with many accessories, unfortunately. He does come with these really nice throwing knives that he's known for. The cool thing about all of the knives, as well as the pommel of the Dragon Slayer, they're all die cast, meaning that it's actually metal. It isn't anything aluminum or anything like that. It's actually a really nice hefty metal, and pretty much you can put it and holster it where you can. The front knife can actually be holstered on his belt, while the 4 throwing knives can be holstered on his chest. The Dragon Slayer, like I said, is actually ginormous. It goes from top to bottom, and just to give you a little bit of a comparison, these are 2 other Dragon Slayers that I have. The first one is from the Berserker Armor Figma that I actually have. The second one is an Art of War Crocodile base statue. I both have reviews on that, so check that out if you can. But pretty much to see it at scale, this is what they all look like together. Now what's interesting is that this Dragon Slayer is about the same size as the Dragon Slayer on the Polystone figure. That's actually rather crazy that Art of War went to that degree, but it's rather interesting to see how huge this thing actually is. If anything, I think it's even bigger scale than the Figma that we actually received. Going to Guts' body, he's incredibly detailed. He has a lot of belts and knives and buckles and everything going on. On the front, you can pretty much see all of his knives as well as buckles and everything. On the back, when you see, you could actually see his crossbow. You can see a little bit of details. It's all very nicely painted. It's very nicely dry brushed on different degrees. You could even go down to his armor and see the little bit of details that the sculpt actually has, and the paint just really brings it out. On the back, pretty much, he does have a chain to holster his Dragon Slayer, although I'm not really too big of a fan on this. It doesn't really hold a Dragon Slayer well, at least it didn't for me. So when I try to hold it down, it just didn't work, just to put it out there. On the back, he has this incredibly nice cape. It's kind of a pleathery, pliable material, very kind of rubbery. But however, when you move it around, it does work very nicely. It does look beautiful, has very nice sculpt to it. The dry brush on the actual cape just looks very nice. It's very beautiful. And you can remove it, however, I don't know if I was supposed to, but you can see how it is with and without the cape if you're actually rather curious. He also has very nice detail on his arm cannon. You can actually see a nice metal spring that's on there. Unfortunately, you can't really have any articulation on it. I think that's the biggest problem I'm going to have with this figure. And just to put it straight out there, the articulation is pretty much next to nothing. He does have those typical joints on his knees, on his calves, everything. I'll show you that in a bit. But when you kind of move him around and everything, he just really isn't that dynamic compared to, let's say, the Figma, or obviously the 3.0, or anything of that sort. I would have liked an articulated hand or something like that, or at least another hand part, but pretty much what you get is what you're gonna get. Pretty much this is just the Dragon Slayer with the knives and everything that you see here with the nice guts. Pretty much I just put them in one position. Alright, the one and only here is the Guts Art of War figure right here. I'm going to show you the articulation. So the head kind of goes up and down. It just really kind of just pivots, if you can see, actually. But you can't take it off. You can take the cape off, but right here it looks like there's a little notch that you actually have to take off. So that's what happens. He kind of swivels up. It's interesting because the hinge actually kind of goes out like this, and then it kind of snaps back. He can rotate all around. He has a cuff right here, so it actually swivels around and moves around. He has a joint right here that actually has a single point where you can bend it at. His hand actually just moves around like this as well. His hand is actually rather stationary. You can move it around, but it is kind of bulky just due to how much armor is there. His arm does not move at all, so the spring does not move. The only thing that it moves is mostly at the cuff right here. The whole arm is actually stationary. He can actually move his legs and do the splits like that. You can actually see that. He does have a little bit of a thigh cut right here. He has a single jointed knee right here, and he can also move at the ankle. So the thing is, he's not able to stand that much. If anything, like I said, I always just keep him in one position, keep him with the Dragon Slayer, just have him right there, and that's pretty much it. But most of all, this is how Guts really is. If you want to get this figure, just know I only keep him in one position, and that's it. He can't really even hold his knives like that. They're just way too tiny, and if anything, and even this, it's just way too tiny. So pretty much you just have him with the Dragon Slayer. That's as best as it's gonna happen with him. So that's pretty much it when it comes to this figure. Like I said, he really doesn't do that much. It's an archaic, around 2004 kind of figure, but honestly, for what it is, for the purposes, for display purposes, I really like it. I don't really know if it's that expensive. I think it's headed towards like the 60 or 70 range when it comes to this figure, so it might be a little bit worth getting. It really depends on to you. However, for me, I found it at a really cheap price. It was perfect for me, I think, for the size and for what you're getting. It's a nice figure, and it's nice to have die-cast parts. You really don't see that these days, so it really feels a little bit special that Art of War was actually able to add that. So thank you guys so much for always coming into my videos. I really do appreciate it. I apologize for not really coming on doing too many videos. I have a couple things that are going on really, and I'll probably let you guys know what that's going to be in an update video coming up. But don't worry, I'm still going to make videos, I'm still going to make more content, and of course Berserk content, port versus port videos. There are more videos that are going to be coming, it's just going to come at a slower pace. So thank you guys, I hope you enjoy this review, more is to come. Check out my Twitch, check out my social media if you haven't, and I'll definitely see you guys next time.